I was standing in line at the travel agency, holding a brochure for a surprise anniversary getaway to Banff when my card got declined. Twice. I laughed awkwardly and told the clerk it must be a glitch. "Try the joint savings account," I said, already pulling up the banking app on my phone. What I saw drained the color from my face. Ling dan ling ling. It wasn't just low, it was empty. I stared at the screen, blinking, refreshing, thinking maybe it hadn't loaded properly. We had nearly 175, zero in there just last week. Money Amanda and I had saved over 7 years. Bonuses, gifts, inheritances, our safety net, our future. Now it was gone. The clerk asked if everything was all right, but I was already walking out the door, heart pounding, questions swirling. I called Amanda the second I got into the car. She picked up on the third ring. "Hey, babe." My voice was flat. "Where's the money?" "What money?" "Our savings, the joint account. It's empty." There was a pause, just long enough. "Oh, that." I pulled the car over. "Amanda, what the hell happened?" "I transferred it," she said, like we were talking about moving laundry between baskets. "Melissa needed funding for her studio. It was urgent." "You what?" "She's opening a boutique fitness space high-end, downtown. The business plan is solid, Ryan. It's a guaranteed return. She just needed capital to get the lease and equipment in place." "And you didn't think to ask me?" "You're so conservative with money," she snapped. "You would have taken months to analyze it to death. This opportunity would have passed. I acted fast." "You emptied our savings, Amanda." "I didn't spend it on myself," she said, defensive now. "I invested it for us. When Melissa's studio succeeds, we both win." I sat in silence, gripping the steering wheel, knuckles white. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. I knew my wife. She was impulsive with shoes and spa packages, not life savings. Something about the way she said invested didn't sit right. "I'm coming home," I said. "I'm at work," she replied a little too quickly. "We'll talk tonight." But she didn't come home that night. She texted instead, "Hey, I'm staying at my parents' for a couple days. Melissa needs help with the launch. Let's cool off and talk on Saturday." Cool off? She dropped a bomb on our life and walked away like it was a scheduling issue. I didn't sleep. I kept going over it in my mind. The missing money. The timing. Her calmness. None of it made sense. Around 2 a.m., I got up and went into her home office. Amanda rarely let me near her desk, said it was where she handled wedding planning clients on the side. But tonight, I didn't care. Third drawer down, beneath a stack of old receipts and a wellness retreat pamphlet, I found it. A blue folder labeled MM Studios LLC. Inside, a notarized partnership agreement. Dated 3 months ago. Amanda wasn't just helping her sister. She was a 50% owner in Melissa's business. There was more. A clause in bold font. No additional stakeholders, including spouses, may claim ownership or voting rights in the company. She hadn't just moved the money. She'd locked me out of any legal claim to it. The entire deal was built behind my back, and it had my name written nowhere. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table staring at that partnership agreement like it was a betrayal written in ink. Because that's exactly what it was. 3 months ago. That meant Amanda had been planning this long before the day she drained our account. Long before her dramatic explanation about needing to act fast. The signature on the bottom wasn't even her usual one. This was her formal legal handwriting. The kind she practiced when she wanted things to look legitimate. And Melissa's signature, proudly etched beside hers, like this was their triumph. I flipped through the remaining pages. Legalese, ownership splits, exit clauses. Then something caught my eye. A line that made my stomach turn. Secured with capital from partner AC, with funds dispersed from jointly held household accounts. AC, Amanda Collins. She had documented in paper that the funding came from our joint account. She wasn't just sneaky, she was sloppy. I wasn't sure what I was more disgusted by, the betrayal or the arrogance that she thought I'd never find out. I texted her. "Me. We need to talk. Call me." Amanda. Busy. Launch week. Can't right now. You're overreacting. Me. You forged a financial agreement behind my back. Amanda. Do not go through my desk again. We'll talk when I get back. That was all she said. No denial. No explanation. Just fury that she got caught. I sat there for a long time, trying to calm down. I wanted to scream, to drive to Melissa's new studio and demand answers. But then I thought, what else was she hiding? So I went back into the office. This time, I powered on Amanda's desktop and opened her email. It was still logged in. She had dozens of folders: wedding clients, HR files, family, but one stood out. M internal. Inside were dozens of email threads between Amanda and Melissa. I clicked through them, watching the full picture emerge like a crime scene in slow motion. Subject: Second mortgage docs, Ryan version. Melissa had replied, "Are you sure this will work? What if he finds out?" Amanda's response was chilling. "He never checks the paperwork. I'll sign it, scan it, and submit. They won't look too close. It's under $150K. I stared at the screen. She forged my signature on a second mortgage against our home. Suddenly, the missing $175K wasn't the whole picture. They'd taken even more. And now, our home, the place we built together, painted together, fought and made up in, was collateral for a business I wasn't even supposed to know about. I dug further. There were emails to a private Gmail account under Amanda's name. I followed the thread and found discussions with a financial consultant. Subject: Asset restructure plan. Move offshore. Melissa had written, "Once the second payout clears, we'll shift to the Cayman setup. No way Ryan can touch it once it's out." Amanda's reply: "Perfect. He'll never see it coming." The betrayal hit in layers. First, the money. Then the lies. Now the plan to erase me entirely. I sat back in the chair, my hands shaking. It wasn't just selfishness anymore. It wasn't impulsive. It was criminal. And now that I had proof, it was time to stop being the cautious one. It was time to become the one they never expected. I called a lawyer the next morning. A real one, someone who specialized in marital fraud and asset protection. His name was Mark Heller. Gray suit, no nonsense. The kind of guy who spoke in bullet points and saw right through polite smiles. We met in his office downtown. I brought the folder with the partnership agreement, screenshots of Amanda's emails, and copies of the forged mortgage documents. I laid it all out on his glass desk. He read in silence, nodded once, then again. "This is bad," he said flatly. "For her." I exhaled for the first time in hours. She forged my name on a loan. She moved our money without consent. She tried to hide all of it in a business that excludes me by design. Mark looked up at me. "You didn't just get betrayed. You got set up." I clenched my jaw. "Can I fight this?" "Oh, you can do more than fight it." He flipped a few pages. "We can freeze all business assets tied to that forged mortgage. That includes their operating account, investor deposits, everything." I blinked. "Even if the business is under her and her sister's names?" He nodded. "The funding source came from a joint marital account. The moment she used that without your consent and forged a secondary lien against the house, she opened the door for full financial intervention." He paused, then added, "We can also file for an emergency injunction. That'll freeze movement of funds until a judge hears your case." I stared at the folder between us. A few weeks ago, I was planning a vacation. Now, I was preparing for legal warfare. "I want to do it," I said. "Everything you just said. I want her stopped." Mark didn't smile, but there was a glint in his eye. "Then let's make sure she never forgets who she married." That afternoon, I signed a power of attorney for Mark to act on my behalf. Within 48 hours, the paperwork was filed. A court date set for emergency review. Amanda hadn't been served yet, but it was coming. Mark advised me not to warn her. "The element of surprise is worth more than a confrontation," he said. He was right. So I waited. Amanda texted the next evening. "Just a few more days at Melissa's. Everything is coming together. Can't wait for you to see it when it's done." She still thought she was in control, still playing house while she planned her exit. I replied simply, "I'm sure it'll be unforgettable." 3 days later, the process server walked into Studios with a smile and handed both Amanda and Melissa their legal summons in front of a packed room of staff and early investors. Mark timed it that way. An hour later, my phone blew up. First Amanda, "What the hell is this, Ryan?" Then Melissa, "You're ruining everything. This was a family investment. Don't be a child." I didn't respond to either of them. Instead, I called the bank. The second mortgage had been formally flagged as fraudulent, pending investigation. The loan was frozen. Any withdrawals from the business account were halted. Amanda hadn't just lost access to my money. She'd lost control of her plan. And I wasn't done yet. 2 days passed with silence. Not the peaceful kind. The calculating, loaded kind. Amanda hadn't come home. Not a word. No texts. No late-night calls. Just stillness. But I knew that kind of quiet. It meant she was scrambling, looking for a crack in the wall, trying to figure out how the hell I flipped the script before she could finish writing it. That Friday morning, Mark called me. She filed a response. "Already?" "Yeah. She's claiming it was a misunderstanding, that you verbally agreed to the investment. No mention of the forgery, of course." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "She's trying to get ahead of the fraud." "She's trying to buy time," Mark said. "But we don't need time. We have receipts." He emailed me a copy of Amanda's official response to the court. It was 6 pages long, full of generic language about trust within marriage and shared vision. She even had the nerve to say that I had always supported her sister's dreams. I scrolled to the last paragraph. The funds were not stolen. They were applied in good faith toward a shared family business venture with full intent of repayment. Full intent. She really thought that was going to hold up in court. Mark filed our counter that same afternoon, complete with screenshots of the emails about moving funds offshore, the Ryan version mortgage doc, and a notarized side-by-side comparison of my actual signature and the forgery. Then we attached the security footage. See, what Amanda and Melissa hadn't realized was that our home office had a motion-activated camera in the corner, one I had installed after a break-in 2 years prior. They'd forgotten about Ithel. I had almost forgotten about it until I was reviewing our cloud backup for anything relevant. And there it was. A clear video of Amanda printing the mortgage forms. Sitting at my desk, practicing my signature 5 times before settling on the one she used. It wasn't just damning. It was deliberate. When I showed Mark the video, he leaned back in his chair and said, "They'll settle." I nodded. "They'll beg." That weekend, Amanda finally came home. I heard the key in the lock, followed by soft footsteps like she didn't want to wake a bear. I didn't move from the couch. I was sipping coffee, laptop open, paperwork beside me. She stepped into the living room like she didn't know what to expect. She saw the stack of legal documents, the folders, the quiet. She tried to speak, but I beat her to it. I found the video. Her face went white. "I know you forged my name. I know you plan to quit your job and move money overseas. I know every single thing you tried to hide from me." Amanda opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Then, "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "No," I said. "It was supposed to happen quietly. I was supposed to find out too late. The money was supposed to be gone, and you were supposed to be sipping champagne with your sister in Costa Rica. That's not fair. You emptied our life savings, Amanda. I was going to pay it back." "With what? Your startup paycheck? You weren't even planning to stay in your job." Her eyes welled up. She stepped closer. "I just wanted something for me. Something that made me feel in control. You stole from your husband to feel powerful. I hope it was worth it." She stopped, then. Really stopped. Because she saw it on my face. This wasn't a fight. This was a funeral. For the marriage. For the trust. For everything we'd built. When she finally spoke again, her voice was flat. "What happens now?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Now, you lose everything you tried to take." Amanda didn't cry. She didn't plead. She didn't even raise her voice. She just stood there in the center of our living room, her arms hanging by her sides, looking like someone who had finally realized the ground beneath her was no longer solid. And I didn't say another word. I stood up, walked past her, and closed the office door behind me. Let her sit with it. Let the silence make its point better than I ever could. The next day, Mark called with an update. She's trying to negotiate. Already? She had her lawyers send over a proposal in formal, no signatures, basically a desperate attempt to settle out of court. What does she want? She wants to keep her half of the business, drop the fraud accusations, and mutually split remaining assets. She's even offering to relieve you of the house if you don't pursue litigation. I let out a low laugh. She wants to steal the house, too. She thinks you're bluffing, Mark said, but she doesn't know about the video yet. Should we show our hand? Not yet, I said. I want her to feel the walls closing in. And they were. That afternoon, the bank officially flagged the mortgage as forged and escalated the case to internal legal. Their investigation would freeze any payouts and trigger criminal review if needed. By Monday, Amanda's business accounted to M Studios was still locked. Rent payments for the building bounced. Payroll got delayed. Word started spreading among her employees. Melissa sent me a voice note. You've made your point, Ryan. Now back off. You're hurting innocent people. I didn't reply. Let her stew. Let her watch her empire fall apart from the inside. Tuesday came with another call from Mark. She's asking for a meeting. Just you and her. No lawyers. No chance. I agree, but it tells us one thing. What's that? She's running out of moves. I was halfway through cooking dinner that evening when Amanda called. Her voice was thin, strained. Can we please talk? I'll come by the house. You already did, I said, when you signed my name without asking. I didn't think it would go this far. You mean you didn't think I'd fight back? She was quiet. I can't lose the business, Ryan, she whispered. Melissa and I, this is all we have. I leaned against the counter. No, I said. You had a marriage. You had a husband. You had a home. You threw all of that away for a fantasy wrapped in Lululemon. You know it was more than that. I know it was theft. She sniffed like she might cry. I didn't care anymore. I'm offering one chance, I said. You sign everything over. Full relinquishment of your share of the business. You walk away from the house. You admit the forgery in writing. And in exchange, I don't press criminal charges. Ryan, take it, or I go nuclear. There was a long pause. Then, send the papers. She hung up. Mark drafted the settlement the next morning. It was brutal. But it was fair if you defined fair as reaping what you sow. Amanda signed 3 days later, without edits. And just like that, everything she built on lies and stolen money now belonged to me. Amanda's signature sat at the bottom of the agreement, next to the notary's stamp. Crisp. Precise. Probably the most honest thing she'd written in months. It was done. Mark filed the documents that afternoon. The court accepted them. Amanda officially forfeited her share of the business, the house, and any claims to our joint assets. In exchange, I dropped the charges in paper. But the consequences? Those weren't mine to drop. Because while I had agreed not to pursue a criminal complaint, the bank hadn't. 2 weeks after the filing, Amanda got a letter from the mortgage lender. Ongoing internal investigation. Suspected document fraud. Cooperation requested. Legal penalties may apply. I didn't hear it from her. I heard it from Melissa Lude and shrieking through the wall of her boutique studio when I walked in to pick up some final documents I now had a legal right to collect. You said it wouldn't come back to us, she screamed. You said this would be clean. Amanda didn't answer. She just sat on the bench near the front desk, hair tied up, expression pale and glassy. I didn't make eye contact. I didn't need to. My presence was enough. 2 days later, I received a notice from the county clerk. Melissa had filed a motion to dissolve the business. Turns out that without Amanda's name and with frozen accounts, delayed payroll, and looming tax complications, the dream of Studios collapsed faster than their loyalty to each other. By the end of the month, the gym was closed. The lease was terminated. Equipment sold to cover debt. Melissa went radio silent. Amanda, however, tried one last Hail Mary. She sent me a letter. A real one. Handwritten. Ryan, you were always the stable one. The one who thought long-term, who saved, who planned, who never jumped unless the ground was solid. I used to admire that. But I felt so small next to it. I wanted to build something of my own. I thought if I took a risk, just once, it would finally be my turn to shine. But I see now that what I did wasn't ambition. It was betrayal. I'm sorry. Amanda. I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope. Didn't shred it. Didn't reply. I just set it on a shelf in the officer right next to the folder that started all of this. The house was quiet again. No more passive-aggressive sighs from across the room. No more iced coffees lined up in the fridge for a sister who never said thank you. No more tension pretending to be teamwork. Just me. And my peace. And let me tell you something. Peace feels a hell of a lot better than trust ever did after it's been broken. Amanda thought she could erase me from the story and rewrite it in her name. What she forgot? I write the ending. 6 months later, the house felt different. Not because I'd redecorated, though I had. Not because the silence was louder, though it was. It felt different because I owned it. Every beam, every drawer, every square inch of it. Amanda used to joke that I was obsessed with order. That I labeled everything. That I treated the house like a pharmacist aisle, organized, controlled. She didn't see the difference between order and respect. But now I walked into this home and felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. The second mortgage she'd forged was nullified by the bank after their investigation concluded. Turns out, video footage and forensic handwriting analysis tend to close cases fast. They didn't pursue criminal charges technically, but the damage was done. Amanda's credit was trashed. Her name landed on internal red flag lists for both banking and real estate networks. The kind of mark that follows you, quietly, silently, like a shadow you can't talk your way out of. She moved into a small rental in Aurora. Melissa? Vanished. The business liquidation forced her into bankruptcy. Last I heard, she was trying to launch an online fitness course, but without Amanda's funding, she didn't get far. And me? I took a few months off work. Not because I had to, but because I could. I visited Banff alone, hiked the trails I'd planned for our anniversary, stood on frozen ridgelines in silence and thought about how close I'd come to losing everything. Not just the money, the dignity, the identity, the belief in myself. But I didn't. I came home, poured a drink, and sat out back on the patio Amanda used to call pointless square footage. It had become my favorite place in the house. A friend once asked if I regretted not seeing the red flags sooner, if I felt stupid for trusting someone who had been planning behind my back for months. I told him this: trust isn't the problem. The problem is what people do with it when they think you're too loyal to notice. Amanda thought I was weak because I was quiet. She mistook patience for passivity, kindness for permission. She learned too late that I wasn't the cautious one. I was the one who waited until the perfect moment to strike. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I didn't threaten. I documented. I planned. And then I acted. And that's how I learned that living well is the best revenge. Did this story hit home? Tell me what you would have done in the comments. Mash that like, subscribe to Revenge with Max for a new true revenge story every day, and share this with a friend who loves karma.